Hi, this is Uden. In this video, I'm going to show you how to assemble the large and the small pinecone bag. If you are interested in watching how to fold the panels, the pinecone panels that you see on front of both the bags here, there's a separate video for that on my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to assemble the rest of the bags. I'm going to make both a large pinecone bag and a small pinecone bag in this video, and I start by sewing the zipper panels. Then I start by basting one of the outer fabric pieces to the zipper. This is not really necessary, but I like to do it, so then I have more control when I'm gonna sandwich the zipper between the lining and the outer fabric. So first just baste it to the zipper with a regular foot, and then I change to the zipper foot. The fabric should be the right sides together, so now I put the lining on top of the fabric and the zipper with the right side facing the zipper. I change to the zipper foot now because I want to sew a bit closer to the zipper. I will show you how I sew stuff in this video, but most of the time I'm going to speed up the sewing, the video while I'm sewing. And when I'm going to do several things multiple times, and then I'll either speed up or edit away some of the sewing, so you don't have to watch all of it 2 times. Because when I'm making the big one and the small one, there are a lot of similarities. They're made the same way, basically, except the bumbag connectors and the strap connectors. So now I pull the fabric away from the zipper. If you use fabrics that can be ironed, I recommend to press them with an iron. These fabrics cannot be ironed, so I just pull them away and use clips to keep them out of the zipper. Now I am top stitching the fabric close to the zipper, just to keep the 2 layers in place, plus it looks nice. I normally change the stitch length when I top stitch, use maybe 4 on this machine, which is quite new to me, this machine, so when I may fiddle a bit with it. Yeah, long stitches is nice when you top stitch. And then you just repeat to add the zipper panels to the other side of the zipper. First I baste, and then I sandwich, and then I sew, pull away, and top stitch. Look, I wish I could sew this fast. They're both done. As you can see, I chose to have 2 zipper pulls on the large pinecone and 1 on the small one. It's up to you how many you use. And here are some pieces for the lining. There's this zipper pocket facing and 2 pieces for the zipper pocket. And the long one is the side panel, and I'm going to use that later. So now you start by drawing a rectangle on the back side, or like the wrong side of the zipper pocket facing piece. And this rectangle should be 1 centimeter high, that is 0.4 inches, and it should be not wider than your zipper. It should be a little shorter than your zipper, and you should keep the rectangle needs to stop a few centimeters, almost an inch from the side. Other than that, you can adjust the width to fit your zipper. The pocket on this small pine cone is quite narrow, so if you use vinyl or stiff material or just hate turning bags through small pockets, you can keep an opening in the lining in the bottom, and then you'll close the hole in the lining through the pocket later. There's a short description on how you do that in the sewing instructions. So now I have placed the pocket facing on one of the main panels of the lining. As you can see, you can use the pattern piece as a guide on how to place it, or you can just do as I do and just wing it. It's important that it doesn't come too far down on the piece, because then the pocket will get in the way of the bottom. So now I'm sewing around the line that I drew. It's important to try to make the corners as neat, sharp as possible. Here. And then when you have sewn around it, you draw a line in the middle of the rectangle. The line should stop approximately 1 centimeter from the edges. That is 0.4 inches. And then you draw diagonal lines from the end of the line, of the long line, and to the edges. Let's do the corners, sorry. Now you take this scissor, first you cut the long line open, and then you cut the diagonal lines, and you cut as close to the corners as you can without cutting your seam. It's important not to cut the stitches. So if you sew nice and straight corners and you cut well into the corner, the opening for the zipper will look very nice. Now actually in this video I'm trying something that's quite new to me, because this lining is made from waterproof canvas. There's a fabric that has a plastic coating on the back, so I can't iron, because normally I would now iron this zipper pocket the way I am folding it now, and then you put it through the opening and you iron it flat on the back. But now I can't iron, so I have had some success using freezer tape to keep the zipper pocket facing in place while I do other stuff before I can sew it to the zipper. Unfortunately, I ran out of freezer tape. So in this video I decided, well, I can use I don't what you call it, painter's tape, what you use to if you're going to paint the wall, and you use this to protect like the window sills and stuff, you know. So I thought, oh, this is almost the same, I'll use that. Turns out it's not. As you will see in a while, it's actually the glue on this tape is too strong, and it rips off the coating on the back of the waterproof canvas. So do not use painter's tape. Freezer tape is good. So as you'll see later, when I make the lining for the large pine cone, I'll use needles instead, pins instead, to keep it in place. So I just have to buy more freezer tape, because I really like the tape. It's quite practical. As you can see here, it's a bit bulky, but I think I can even this out when I sew later. It's easier to make it nice and flat when you can iron. So it puckers a bit on the corners there, but it's not as bad as it looks actually. So onto the pockets. I just checked that my zipper is the right size. I should have done that earlier before I cut the hole. Now the fabric is facing up and the zipper is facing up, and I'm going to sew the zipper to one of the pocket pieces. And now you don't need to sew close to the zipper at all. If you sew close to the zipper, your stitches will show afterwards in the opening. So just sew close to the edge. Sometimes things looks like they take a really long time, even when I'm fast forwarding. Sorry about that. I blame the new machine. I think it's wonderful. I just haven't gotten to know it yet. There you go. And now you do the same to the other side of the zipper. So the right side of the fabric upwards and the zipper upwards. And now you need to watch that the pocket pieces line up. The fabric slides easily. I like it though. I just need to get used to the waterproof canvas. I love that you don't have to line it. Oh, sorry, interface it. You don't have to interface it. So now your piece should look like this, with the wrong side of the pocket pieces facing upwards when the zipper is facing right. The right side of the zipper is facing upwards. And now I would also normally iron the zipper flat. Here I have not discovered yet that this tape is bad for the fabric, so I'm still going to use it. Actually, I think if you took this tape and put it on your sweater or some other fabric a few times to get some of the sticky out, then it probably work better for waterproof canvas too. Because with freezer tape, it was very good. But remember to if you use freezer tape, place the tape as close to the edge of the zipper tape as you can. Otherwise, you might sew over it when you attach the zipper. So put it all on the edge, like that. And again, if you can iron your fabric, you do that instead. Now make sure that the zipper is actually on the inside of the opening when you place them like this, and the facing piece should line up with the pocket pieces like this. Now just place it so that your zipper is as even as possible. And the pieces line up, and then you just pin it in place. And then you're going to sew around the zipper. And it's very important that the pocket pieces are lying the way they are now. Do not fold them over yet, because then you won't have a pocket. If you fold over and then sew now. Yeah, placing and replacing and replacing. And then in the end, I'm just going to sew very slowly and then correct line it up as I go. Hold on. As you can see, okay, I still have some puckering, but it's not as bad as it looks before I got the zipper in. And here is where I think I'm going to just pull the tape off. Easy peasy, like with the freezer tape. But no, I ruined the fabric instead. But since it's on the inside, and this bag probably is a keeper anyway, so I'm not making a new one. You see there's a piece of the coating has fallen off a few places. Do not use painter's tape. Bad. Okay, so what you do now is, now you fold the pocket over like this, and you're going to cut one of the pocket pieces to even out the difference here. Before I do that, I always pin the pockets together so they won't shift before I cut. After I cut, I'm going to sew the side of the pockets, and it's important to fold the main panel away. You're just going to sew through the sides of the pocket pieces and the zipper and the facing. Like that. Repeat on the other side. It's very important not to sew the bottom of the pocket closed now, because if you do, you will not be able to turn your bag right side out later. In this pattern, I have not included slip pockets or card slots or anything like that on the other panel because it's so small. But if you want to, of course, you can add whatever you want. I know that some people love card slots. Now I'm going to start attaching the lining to the zipper panel, but before I do, I will shorten the zipper. So now I'm just securing the zipper with a few stitches across, and then I will cut it and melt it with a lighter. Because the zipper tape I use, it frays very easily when you cut it. See, it starts fraying already. But to melt it, it's okay. And it stops. Just make sure not to set fire to anything else. So, to attach the lining to the zipper panel, you put the fabrics right side together, and then you use clips or pins to keep the lining pieces together. But as you can see, you fold away the outer fabric now. And now you're going to sew from the side and toward the zipper. You're going to stop when you reach the zipper on both sides. And then you just repeat on the other side. Now I'm going to attach one of the main panels. You need to open the zipper in the pocket before you attach the second panel. So I just do it now so I won't forget. First I mark the middle of the top and the bottom of the panel. I also mark the middle of the side panel and zipper panels. Oh yeah, and as you can see, I just fold up the pocket here because it tends to get in the way because the panel is so small. Marking the middle of the side panel and the middle of the zipper panel. When you have marked the middle, it's easy to place the main panel in the circle here because you just match up the clips or pins at the top and the bottom. And then I work my way from these towards both sides, and then I'll leave the sharpest curve on the side of the bag till the end. So as you see, I start from the middle markings and place clips, and you need a lot of them. Either a lot of clips or a lot of pins, because you want to make sure that this fits well before you start sewing, or you have a lot of unpicking to do. So put them close together, feel your way all the way around the oval here. See, I'm getting close to the curve, so then I do the other side first. When I come to the sides here, I open the seam allowance in the lining where I sewed the zipper panel to the side panel, just to reduce bulk. That won't fit nicely. And if it doesn't fit nicely on the first curve or the first side, I normally go and do the other side first, in case, you know, if there's too much fabric on one side and too little on the other, you know where to adjust. So instead of trying to fix it right away, if there's problems on the first curve, I do the other one first. Now go back to the problematic one if the other one is good. But here I was lucky, both were good. Now I'm going to sew around it, and as the lining is cut from the same pattern piece as the outer fabric, you can use a larger seam allowance on the bottom, especially on the bottom of the lining, to keep the lining, well, then it fits better in the bag, you know, if it's a bit smaller than the bag. And actually I discovered something when I was making this video, because I have an industrial machine that I normally sew the outer fabric pieces on, especially when there's foam and everything in it. And now I wanted to use a domestic because I wanted to show you that it's possible. The thing is that what I feel, one thing is that the industrial is so powerful, it sews through anything, so of course that's lovely. But another good thing about the industrial is that it clamps down harder on the fabric, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't slip when you sew. So I tend to use, when I get to the outer fabric later, you may notice that I use a larger seam allowance when I sew the outer fabric, outer main panels to the sides. It's not intentionally. I discovered afterwards that I've used a very large seam allowance when I made it on the domestic compared to what I normally do when I sew the outer panels on the industrial. So if you do the same as me, if you use a large seam allowance just to keep control over the bag while you sew it, you may have to remember that when you sew the lining, because it's easier to sew the lining together than to sew the stiffer outer fabric with the foam and everything. So just a tip there. It's never a bad idea to use a larger seam allowance on the lining. Looks good. Now just double checking that the pocket is open before I attach the other side. And I'm going to do that exactly the same way as the first. Yeah, didn't have the heart to make you watch the sewing once more. So both the panels are attached, and then I move on to the other one. I'm going to skip a bit here too, you don't have to watch all of it all over. So I've done the same. I made a rectangle. As you can see, this is a very wide pocket, so it's easy to turn the bag later. I'm not using that tape again. So this time I'm going to try with pins, since I repeat, in case you skipped the last part, this is a fabric that is coated with some plastic material, and it's very nice because you don't have to put interfacing on it, but the downside is that you can't iron it, or at least I think you can. I haven't tried. It'll probably melt. So then you can't flatten the pocket facing with an iron, and painter's tape was a bad idea, and I'm all out of freezer tape, so now I'm going to use pins. Again, once you've sewn the rectangle, make a line through the middle. Oh, it's a bit crooked, so I'm not going to cut. Yeah, see, I was not in the middle. I'll just cut next to it instead. And cut the diagonal lines after you cut the long one, as close as you can to the stitches in the corners, but do not cut the stitches. And again, I'm finger pressing here because I can't use an iron. I'm going to turn the facing to the back side and start pinning. Finger pressing, rolling the fabric a bit between the seam between my fingers and pinning it. much as I hate ironing, because I actually do, I'm missing the iron right now. Because actually when it comes to this part of bag making, ironing is quite practical. Yeah, I think you get the idea. Let's speed this up. So, looks a bit bulky, but this is going to be okay. And again, with a zipper pocket, you attach one pocket piece to the zipper. Both the zipper and the pocket piece is right side up. And I sew close to the edge, not close to the zipper. Because if you sew close to the zipper, your stitches will show when you attach the zipper with the pocket pieces into the opening there. And we'll repeat on the other side. The zipper with right side up and the fabric with the right side up, and the pocket pieces should match up on the sides. Okay, so this is done. Now since I can't iron and I can't use the tape that I have, I cannot flatten this out. Because normally I would use an iron here to flatten the zipper out. I'm just going to try and finger press and force it down and move the pins from earlier while trying to have the zipper here in place. This is all a lot easier if you use a fabric that you can iron, or if you have freezer tape. So don't let this scare you if you haven't made a pocket like this before and you think this looks like a lot of work. It's just the materials. It's not that bad. Yeah, and you shouldn't put pins in your mouth. So again, sew around the zipper. It's a good idea to go slowly here. And as you can see, I have not folded the pocket pieces together yet. They should lie open like they do now when you sew around here. Here I'm desperately trying to prevent puckering. Looks like there's a little bit more fabric than zipper left. Okay, over to the strap connectors. If you're making just a toiletry bag or a clutch, you can skip this part. These are the connectors, the pieces that you will use on the sides of the zipper on the large pinecone to attach the shoulder strap or crossbody strap, and you'll use them on the small pinecone if you want to make a bum bag. In this video I'm going to show you two styles of bum bag, one with the bum bag connectors, as I call them, the thingies you see on the left here, and then later I'm going to show how you can make one with belt loops on the back instead of connectors in the sides. Anyways, I'm making one of the connectors now, and since this is fabric, not vinyl, I'm zigzagging around the sides. And as you saw, I drew a line in the middle of the piece. Now I'm going to fold the long sides toward the line and sew close to the raw edge. I'm just going to get my tweezers and turn it. I use tweezers for almost anything when I sew. I think I have like 10 of them, and I have a small sewing room. Yeah, went a bit too far, so I'm just going to go a stitch back. Then you sew down the other side the same way you did the first. And it's done. Now, cutting to where they are done. When you place the D-ring on them, make sure the raw edges are on the inside. Now I'm just basting the ends together. You can use clips as well, but this fabric moves very easily, so I'm basting a lot here. I'm going to save 2 of them for the big bag, and I'm going to use 2 for the smaller one now. These are the pieces for the bum bag connectors that goes on the sides of the bum bag. The longest side is up, and then I'm going to put the connectors on the short edges there. You can also attach if you have like a webbing, you can attach the webbing directly to the bum bag connectors, but now I'm using strap connectors. So you sandwich the strap connector between two bum bag connector pieces. Wow, that's a lot of connector. Yeah, since this is as I mentioned, this fabric is like soft and it slides a bit, I'm gonna baste the connector to the piece first. Just make sure it's sticking out even just as much on the other side as on the first. Now I'm going to put the other layer on. Now you're going to sew the 3 sides that I'm pointing at. You're leaving the curved edge and the short sides close to the curved one open. a little thread breaking there. Almost done. Now you turn the bumbag connectors right side out, and you're going to top stitch. Well, at least I'm going to top stitch. You can choose what you want to do. Now on this one I would like to add rivets to the side, so you can either top stitch all the 3 sides you have sewn now and skip rivets or add rivets or do whatever you want. I'm gonna stitch the long sides here, and I'm gonna only add rivets to the short side. So I'm going to start sewing at the curved edge there and then go toward the short side. If you're sewing over the shorter side here and you think it's a bit thick, you might try the hand wheel, but I think it's, with this fabric, it's not a problem. And I am adjusting the stitch length again, because I want to use long stitches for the top stitching. So skipping to where I'm done top stitching, I'm going to fasten rivets to the sides of the bumbag connectors. This is not necessary. I'm doing it just as much because it looks nice as to reinforce the strap connector. You could just sew across there instead of adding rivets. As you can see, I'm using my button press for rivets. I normally use 9mm wide rivets, so I have dies for the 9mm, and I think I have one more size, but I'm use 9mm for almost everything. So I just button a lot of different lengths of rivets. I see that a lot of people say that if you have like a 10mm size die, you can use it for 9 and 8 and even smaller. I've tried that a couple of times, but my problem is that you see the edge around the hole in the die there, where you put the cap. You can actually see that edge punch into the vinyl, or especially when you use vinyl or leather. So I have actually damaged some straps using the wrong size rivet in the die. So now I'm just sticking to 9mm just in case. Because when you press down, if the cap doesn't fill all the hole, the edge can actually cut your fabric if you press hard enough. Maybe the edge on my dies are sharper than they should be, I'm not sure. Okay, so back to the bags. Now I am going to, why am I pointing there? Yeah, I'm just checking that the zipper pockets are open. Because now I'm going to connect the side panels, outer fabric side panels, to the outer fabric zipper panels. And you do this the same way as with the lining, but now if you're going to use strap connectors on the sides of the zipper, you need to attach them now. See, I've done one already, and I'm basting them to the sides to prevent them slipping around when I put the side panel over it. Now this could be a lot for some machines, because now you have the nylon zipper and you have these multiple layers of connector and everything. So you may have to use the hand wheel to get over the zipper. So now I am putting the side panel, right sides together on the zipper panel, and I'm folding the lining away, and I'm sewing from the sides toward the zipper, just like I did with the lining. Only now you don't sew through the lining. But when you have sewn both sides, you fold the lining back in place and you sew across the zipper, but only across the zipper. Do not sew all the way. Oh, it's a bit crooked there, but well, my seam was not straight, but I think it was okay on the outside. So we'll just leave it. Doing the same on the other side. Sewing from the side toward the zipper first, only through the outer fabric. Well, and the foam, but that's stuck to the outer fabric. And then I'm putting the lining back in place, and I'm going to sew across the zipper. And again, this is could be a bit bulky. I almost broke a needle when I hit the nylon coil, so I'm going to go slowly now. Fasten the seams on the side, and I'm going to use the hand wheel to get over the zipper, because then I can stop if I feel that the needle is hitting the coil. Because normally I sew across nylon zippers with no problem, but now there's just so many layers. I don't want to break my new machine. And there I start hand wheeling just across the coil. It's actually it handles all the layers of fabric and foam and everything. It's just the zipper. See? Now I'm just moving slightly when I feel that the needle is hitting the zipper. Yep, that looks good. So, to fasten the main panel, outer fabric main panels, you do the same as the lining, but now note that if you prefer to have the pocket on a special side of the bag, let's say now I'm holding him up like this would be my back side of the bag, right? I prefer to have the inner pocket on the back side, toward the back side. So I'm going to flip it over now, because the side, if I put it on the side where the pucker is, well, that's the side it's going to be. So now I'm putting the front panel on the side where there is no pocket in the lining. It's not a big deal if you whatever way you put it, but if you have a preference, you should mind that when you put this on. Also note that the folded panel, the pinecone panel, is not symmetrical, so you just look at it first and see which side you want to turn upwards before you place it on the bag. And again, Just use a lot of clips doing this. Now with the foam and everything, it's hard to feel puckering from the outside. So it's could be a good idea to slip a finger through between the fabrics here and feel that it lies straight before you put the clip in. And again, I'm doing the sides with the least curves first, and I'm saving the curves for last. And as you can see here, it doesn't fit perfectly on the first try. So I'm leaving it till later, just in case there's a well, if there's too much fabric on one side, in case there's too little on this side, then I know what to do. But this side was good, so this is not where the problem was. It's kind of amazing though that, you know, it looks like it doesn't fit at all. You'll find that as long as you cut the panels or the pieces correctly, it will fit. You just might have to do this a couple of times. And all I'm doing here is actually I'm opening the clips, placing the fabric again, and then almost like magic, the extra fabric will disappear. It will just even out if you cut the pieces right. So I'd rather spend time doing this than getting folds that could be avoided that I have to either be annoyed over or fix later. So this is where I prefer to use my industrial because I have more control with industrial. But it's okay. It's not a problem to sew it on the domestic either. It's not too thick. It's just a bit more, you know, you have less control. It slips easier. But bearing in mind that I'm quite inexperienced doing this on my domestic, and this is a new domestic, so do not be intimidated by this. It's not hard. It just takes a little patience. See, I'm stopping a lot to move the fabric around, moving the pieces you not want to sew out of the way. And removing clips. Yay! See, this is mostly good, but you see the seam up there is a bit wobbly. That is due to me losing control. So I'm just going to sew an extra seam there. That is just even the seam out or straighten it out. Oh, that's a good view. I'm sorry. Yep, that's better. And now just repeat on the other side. I'm going to speed things up a little so you don't have to watch it again. Oh, before I do, make sure that your zipper is open now. Both zippers actually. Both the interior zipper and the main zipper has to be open before you attach the other one. And again, you could make this bag with 2 folded panels or no folded panels. So up to you. This machine there is actually a combination of a sewing machine and embroidery machine. But I haven't gotten around to playing with the embroidery part yet because I've been busy making this. So later, when I'm done with this video and release the pattern, I'm going to try and make an oval bag with embroidery on it. Looking forward to that. Let's see, here, too much fabric again. So I'm leaving it till later. Yeah, there's a little extra here too, so I need to smooth out both sides. One side is done. I have to go almost all the way to the other side here. Well, now it's good. And the other side is on. So I'm going to do one more thing before I turn the bag, and that is attaching the seam allowance on the lining to the seam allowance on the outer fabric along the curve on top here. And you do this to prevent the lining from collapsing into the bag later. So now just going to use clips and fasten it to the sides here, and then you're going to sew close to the edge. So you're going to sew on the outside of the seam you just made, yeah? And you're only doing it from along the zip, where the zipper is, along the zipper panel. So I'm ready to turn the bag before I start sewing the other one. Now, this is quite an easy fabric to turn, and it's an easy bag design to turn because the inner pocket is so wide compared to the size of the bag. So I'm just evening, pushing out the seams there. And then I see it. Dun, dun, dun. Puckering. Oh no. I'm going to have to fix that. There's a fold in the fabric. This is quite an unforgiving fabric. You can see everything. If it was like a thick coat fabric, I don't know if you could have noticed, but you'll see this. And too bad I didn't turn the bag to have a look before I sewed the seam allowances together. Or actually, I had a chance to see this before, because this is a front panel. This is the first side I attached. But I didn't think about having a good look. So now I'll just turn it back and get the seam ripper. Luckily, I don't have to open very much of the seam. There was a problem area there. This is one of the things that I've learned over the years. I should not save for later, because when I save stuff like this for later, it tends to heap up in the things to do later pile. Here, actually, this is the place where I made that extra theme. Remember when my seam was wobbly and I made one to straighten it out? That's when I caused this problem. So that's the one I have to unpick a little. Once that is done, I can sew the bag back up. And then you just attach the seam allowance again. Well, not yet. Look. I found another problem, so I had to make one more seam. But now it's done. I think I learned my lesson, so I'm going to check before I attach the seam allowance again to see if the puckering is gone. Yep, looks good. So now I'll sew the seam allowances together again where I unpicked. So I'm turning the bag again. This time it's nice and smooth. Actually, I really like the look of this fabric on this bag. I think I need to make more colors. So next thing you do is you pull the pocket out and fold. I usually fold like 1 centimeters of the fabric, that's 0.4 inches, toward the wrong side, and you pin or clip it in place, and then you close the pocket with a seam across there, from the right side, of course. I still need to sew the other bag and make the strap, so I'm going to save that for later, because now I have purple thread in my machine. So I'm going to do that later. Yeah, I'm happy with it. So on with the next one. I'm going to put together the small pinecone, bumbag style. I'm only going to show the parts we haven't done yet. First, I mark where the bumbag connectors will be. You see the dots on the pattern piece there? They indicate where to put the bumbag connectors. Actually, I moved the bottom dots a little bit up since I made this film, because as you will see, they're a bit low. But don't worry, it looks almost the same. Now the connectors should be like this when they are attached, right? So, but to attach them, you need to cut notches in the side here, or you will not get it to lie in the curve properly. So I cut approximately 1 centimeter up. This piece has extra seam allowance to let you do this, so it's okay. Now I'm starting to attach them with the longest side on the top, and when you stitch the side panel to the rest of the bag later, make sure that the ends of the bumbag connectors kind of disappears into the seam allowance. So don't place it too far in on the main panel. When I attach them with the clips now, I let the seam allowance on the bumbag connectors stick out a bit compared to the main panel there. And then I'm going to baste it in place so I don't have to worry about it sliding around later when I attach the panel to the rest of the bag. As you can see now, I don't reach the other needle completely. And that is due to me using an old pattern piece when I made the video. So it's fixed now, so don't worry. But even now I see that I get the same distance on both sides, same distance from the needles. So as long as the connectors are put on the main panel about the same height, it will look good. Yeah, see, I'm trying desperately to reach the needle. I forgot that I hadn't fixed the dots on the pattern piece that I used. So now I will baste the bumbag connectors to the panel. As you can see, when I open it now, you can still see the holes from the notches on the right side here if I pull the fabric, but that's no problem because when you sew this panel to the rest of the bag, you will use more of the seam allowance. You know, if you sew it, attach it with a normal seam allowance, these holes will go into the seam allowance, so you can't see them anymore. looking good. Attaching this side panel is done exactly the same way as the other one, so I'm just going to skip that part now. Ta-da! Done. Again, if you want the inner pocket to be on a particular side, you can make that happen now. So I want the pocket to be on the back side of the bum bag, so I'll attach the back panel to the side of the bag here where the inner pocket is. And I double check what is up and down on the panel before I attach it. Yep. So you do the same with the small pine cone as with the large one when you attach the outer fabric panels. You start in the middle and you work your way towards the sides. So this is the smaller one is of course rounder than the large one, or less oval, but it's the same process. A little bit extra fabric there, so I'm going to even it out. There you go. As I mentioned earlier, I discovered during making this that I'm using more seam allowance when I sew with a domestic than when I sew with my industrial machine, when it's a bit bulky and a lot of layers and stuff. So later I'm going to show you another bag, and you can actually see the difference in the width of the bag. This one it's not as deep as the other one. Okay, so I just skipped to where this panel is attached. And this time I'm checking before I attach the other one to see if I can find any puckering, and I can. This fabric is unbelievable. See, the fabric's fault, not mine. But it's just a teeny tiny one, so I'm gonna fix that before I move on. Other than that, it looks good. Yeah, fixing that one and then moving on. So I'm just going to unpick a little and sew that part of the seam again. Yep, looks good now. Then I can attach the other panel. And this is the pinecone folded one, yeah. So then you have to know which side you want up and which side is down. Other than that, you attach it the same way as the other one. Start by marking the top, middle of the top and bottom, and using a lot of clips. If you have watched the whole video this far, you have seen this a few times already. So I'm just going to cut to where the panels are attached. crossing my fingers that we don't find any puckering on the other side now. But just to make sure, because you know how much that works, yeah? Just to make sure, I'm going to turn the bag now and see before I attach the seam allowances together. First I'm trying to feel if there's something. I don't trust myself. I'm going to have to turn it around. And now you see that this bag is a bit more work to turn than the larger one, because the opening is of the zipper pocket is so small. But you'll manage. That's okay. But if you don't want to do this, or if you use a stiff, thick vinyl or something, you could leave an opening in the bottom of the lining instead, and then turn it through that, and you still need to leave the bottom of the pocket open, because you have to then you close the lining through the pocket. It's a short description of it in the sewing instructions if you buy the pattern. Yep, it looks good, so I'm going to turn it back and then attach the seam allowance of the outer fabric to the seam allowance of the lining. Okay, that is one side, so you just repeat and do exactly the same on the other side. I'm cutting to where that is done. There you go. Now for the final turning of this one. I'm very happy with this one too. And again, you have to turn pull out the bottom of the pocket and turn 1 centimeter or approximately 1 centimeter, that's what I do, to the back side of the fabric, and pin or clip it in place and sew across. But again, I'm saving that for later, because I'm going to still have the strap to do, and I'm keeping the purple in my machine. So, yeah, I like it. As you can see, it will look good as a clutch as well if you make it without the bumbag connectors. I'm going to show you later how you can make hoops on the back side, or loops, yeah, hoops, I think. So you can still use it as a hip bag, but not with the connectors. First, strap. My fabric was not wide enough to make a strap out of one piece, so I have stitched 2 pieces together. I do it like that, put them 19 degrees on top of each other, right sides together, and sew. Then I cut away the excess, so it's approximately 1 centimeter left. And now I'm going to sew down the seam allowance. And I'm also going to zigzag around the edge, because this is fabric that can fray. What I'll do next, because I'm now making a 2-layer strap. Ideally, I would have made a 4-layer strap with no raw edges, since this is a fabric strap. But the problem is now that my, rectangular slide or buckle that I'm going to use to make an adjustable strap, it's so small that if I make a 4-layer strap, I can't use that buckle. So now I'm doing a 2-layer strap just to show you. And then you can choose whatever fits your fabric or material and hardware later. In the sewing instructions, I have also described how you make a 4-layer strap without raw edges. So again, this is not an ideal fabric for this kind of strap, but sometimes you just have to compromise. So what I made a line, as you see, through the fabric, and then I'm going to fold the long edges towards this line and stitch, as you can see here. I didn't have the right color buckle, so I'm using brass, but that's okay. First thing you do, you put one end of the strap, fold it over the middle bar of the buckle, like that. And then you attach that end of the strap to the strap itself. Now I'm just going to clip it first. So I fold it in and clip it in place. I'm going to sew there later, and I'm going to use rivets. You can do both or one of them. Now, the other end of the strap, you put through one of your swivel hooks. As you can see, this strap is extremely long. It's too long. I didn't realize how much too long it was until after I was done, so I cut it after I stopped filming this part. And then, after you put that swivel hook on, you'll do this same part, the end of the strap, through the rectangular slide again, over the fabric from the last time. And this is why I can't have a 4-layer strap for this buckle. It would be too thick. I have tried. Then you put that same end through the last or second swivel hook and fastened it. Now I have stitched the ends where I folded earlier, and I'm going to add rivets. Again, you can see the raw edges on this strap, so I'm not happy with it. I'm just using it now to illustrate how you can make one from different material. Actually, I think this bag would look very good with like a gold chain, or a chain from the same color as your hardware. I don't have any chains, so I might do that later. Maybe a combination of chain and black vinyl would be good. Anyways, I like the look of the gold hardware on this fabric, with this fabric. Now the end I'm doing now, I'm going to cut off later and do again. Because as I said, this strap is too long. it would be okay if I was only using it for the large pinecone, because you can shorten it enough to be used as a crossbody even. But then I tried it on the bumbag, and it was too wide even for me. So strap is done. So I'll just attach it to the bags and see how it looks. Oh. It's so big and long. I hope you get the idea. And the thing is that if you're making a set for yourself with a large and a small pinecone, you can save yourself a strap. You can use the same strap for both, because you'll probably not wear both at the same time anyways. But again, I need to shorten this strap. I think if I cut off maybe this much, it'll be okay. So I did. Now I shorten it so much that it fits me when it's on the shorter side here, and it's still long enough that you can use it as a crossbody. Even for me, I'm tall. Of course, if you want to use this as like a more of a handbag, you can make a non-adjustable strap that's even shorter, just one handle length. Before the end of the video, I'm going to quickly show you how you can use the strap connector pieces to make a bum bag that can pass as a clutch as well. If you want to wear the bag on your belt, you can add the strap connectors to the back side. I use actually the same pattern piece as for these. I just fold them differently. And you attach them to the back panel after you put the foam on. So here I have sewn the foam on the outer fabric, and I have made the connectors, but now I'm folding the short edges in. Make sure you fold them so that they are the same length. Keep the raw edges on the inside and just choose where you want them. Remember, don't place them too close to the edge, because you still need to sew this thing, to assemble this thing, yeah, and you're going to use some of that fabric as seam allowance. So bear that in mind. You place them wherever you want. I recommend you measure from the sides, that you place them the same length from each side. Now this is actually freezer tape. It's not painter's tape. Oh, so I filmed this before I made the red ones. I just practical to keep it in place with tape. Because now I'm going to sew the folded edges. I'm going to sew a tiny rectangle where the folds are. If you want it to be really strong, you can also make a small cross in the rectangle, you know. Taking the tape off after I've sewn them together. Then, when you're done, you can use the strap as a belt, or you can use another belt. Just make sure that you make the connectors long enough so that you can fit the hardware in the strap through them. Here, this one is done. And you can see on the left side there, you can see half of the larger bag with the same fabric. And here I can use the same strap for both. A little difficult getting that buckle through, so if you make this bag, make sure the straps are wide enough for your hardware. You can make the straps longer if you wanted to fit a wider belt or a wider strap. You can make the strap connector longer. This was okay. So we're reaching the end of the film here. Thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in the pattern, you find links to where you can purchase it in the description of this video. I have a website called urk.com and an Etsy shop with the same name. Bye!